Behind me is engine 311. It's our fast attack vehicle. It's been designed to carry not a whole lot of equipment, but to carry the necessary equipment that we need to get the job done. As you're going to see today, it doesn't have compartment space to carry every single piece of equipment that we have. There's no need. We have a huge rescue sitting right next to it. However, you will be impressed with the amount of equipment that we do fit on this truck, and you will be impressed with the location and the accessibility of that equipment. Engine 1 is a 2016 Pierce Aero XT with a TAC4 suspension. It has a DD13 Detroit diesel 515 horsepower engine. Its height is 9 feet 8 inches. It's only 32 feet long, which makes for an excellent turning radius. And its gross weight is 50,000 pounds. It carries 800 gallons of water with 2,000 gallon per minute pump. In designing this truck, we tried to match it up with Quint 31 and Rescue 31 as close as possible. You will see for the driver's seat, you have control of the emergency lights. There's a backup camera and a seatbelt indicator. Along with that backup camera, you will also have an indication if a door is open, if a compartment is open. In terms of the officer's seat, in the officer's seat, you have control over all the windows in the cab. You have control of the go light, which is absolutely awesome in terms of seeing addresses on buildings. And you also have control over the scene lights of the truck. Engine 1 has seating for 6 personnel. The reason which 6 personnel were decided is to make sure that we do in fact get more trucks on the road. It also makes it a little bit easier for the engine officer in terms of his span of control when first arriving on scene. As you'll see in the back of this cab, we have seating for 4. Along with the necessary air packs, we also have our water can and our irons. We have 4 portable radios. Those are all high band radios. We have an additional 1 portable low band radio. You'll see sitting right here on the doghouse, we've got our gas meters. There's a 5 gas meter in there. There's also our sniffer for detecting leaks. You'll see a complement of hand lights. Below the 2 forward-facing jump seats, you will see a storage bin. In that storage bin, we have incident safety vests in terms of your command vest, your staging vest, your safety officer vest. It's one of those things we don't use that often, but it's important to know where they are. Also in there, you will see vests just for the highways. We also have a med cabinet with a power source. Inside the med compartment, we have our first in bag, we have our AED. Also inside the cab, you'll notice our accountability ring is hanging. It's important for the firefighter to grab this and hand it to his officer as he exits the vehicle. On that accountability ring will be your pack tag, as well as your personal tag. On this truck, we have 2 sets of irons. These irons are self-locking. It's a lock slot 8 axe with a Maximus Rex Halligan. You'll see there's no marrying strap. 2 hands, 2 tools. It's important if someone tells you to get a tool off the driver's side. It is literally the driver's side. So as we walk to the first compartment past the pump panel, this is the engineer's compartment. Inside of this compartment, you are going to see a whole host of fittings. All these fittings will be used at some point or another. Some of the ones that we need to mention right off the bat is your 5 to 4 inch Storz adapter. Now that's extremely important because on engine 3, we carry 5-inch LDH. The rest of our fleet, we carry 4-inch. So if at any point in time, engine 3 is laying into you, you will need this adapter to make that connection and successfully get water. As you look, we have random spanner wrenches, mallets, different size nozzles. Below, you will see we always keep water for hydration, and we will always keep a 50-foot roll of 1 3/4 hose line and 2.5-inch hose line. That's utility hose that we can use for many different purposes. You'll also see in this compartment we have the driver's air pack. It's stored in a location that is convenient yet out of the way. So moving on to the next compartment. The compartment directly above the wheel, you're going to see a variety of hand tools. All right? These are where you're going to have to come if you are not an individual that grabs the irons out of the cab. You see at this pull-out board, tools are mounted on both sides. Flathead axis, pick head axis, bolt cutters, a shovel, and a piercing nozzle. In addition, in case we should ever get locked out of our truck, we have zip-tied a key to the doors in this compartment. We don't anticipate that problem, but you never know. Last compartment has got quite a bit of tools in it. Let's start off the bottom here. You'll see we have a chainsaw. It has a vent guard on it, depth gauge. Right next to the chainsaw, we have our negative pressure fan. One of the important things to know about this fan is that it needs to go in on its side. As you can see right here is the bottom of the actual fan. These rubber grips will actually dig in and not allow you to push that in. So when you load this fan, you load it on its side. Right next to that, you see the cord reel, used for a variety of purposes. So let's go ahead and let's move above. We have a secondary toolbox. It has more hand tools. So if you grab the kit for the NVA compartment and that's not enough, you can always come here, look for other tools. Right next to that, you will see some more forcible entry fun. Inside we have our rabbit tool. Along with the rabbit tool, you will see a K tool. Both of these tools will make your life extremely easy if forcible entry is needed. Hidden behind these two pieces of equipment, you are going to see is approximately a 15-foot piece of cord. This cord is used to pigtail these two trash lights together. It's kept in the back out of the way. So directly above that, you will see a variety of different pigtails that we may need. You will see our foam inductor. You will see a variety of ladder belts. We have short ones. We have longer ones. You will see hanging here are our hose clamps. In addition to our hose clamps, you will see our one foam nozzle that we have on this truck. That nozzle has been matched perfectly with the inductor that we carry. So those two need to be used together. In addition, you will see we've got our door bar simply so that we can expand that across the doorway opening and hang our fan. So last thing in this compartment, you're going to see the two trash lights. Over here, let's look at the fuel. Inside this opening, you will see that we have a location for a diesel fuel. That's nothing new. What is new is the port for the DEF fuel. In order to get to DEF, you have to open up this compartment and you'll see the DEF is blue. This DEF fuel is a little bit different compared to our normal operating procedures for fueling a truck. Typically when we fuel a truck, we will fuel it if it's below 3/4 of a tank. However, with the DEF tank, we want that to get down to approximately a 1/4 tank to 1/3 of a tank before we fill it. Once that DEF fuel is exposed to the air, it only has a shelf life of 30 days. So we want to make sure we run that tank down almost empty before we refuel it. Again though, when we're talking about diesel, 3/4 of a tank or below, we're filling it. One of the most exciting features of this truck is its low hose bed. Hasn't been seen in Endwell Fire for many years. When we look at this engine bed, you're going to see there are 5 pre-connected lines. Starting off with the first line, we have 200 feet of 2.5-inch hose. This hose is equipped with a TFT fog nozzle. If we call for a 2.5, this is the line that you will pull. The next line is a 300-foot line. This line is used for long lays. On this 300-foot line is a smoothbore nozzle. It's a 7/8 tip, which will give you 160 gallons per minute. This meets the requirement of that first line hitting 150 gallons per minute. The second line, that's 1 3/4 inches, is our bread and butter line. This line is 200 feet of 1 3/4 hose. It's equipped with an automatic TFT nozzle. So if you are told to pull a line and no other instructions, this is the line that you will pull. In terms of pre-connected lines, obviously this 4-inch line is not pre-connected. There's 1,100 feet of 4-inch line. We use this line to connect to the hydrant and fulfill our water supply. So let's skip over it for now. The next pre-connected line you're going to see is, again, another 200 feet of 1 3/4 line with a TFT. This line most likely will be your backup line. The last line that's pre-connected is 250 feet of 2.5-inch hose. Now, there's no nozzle on that. On the end of that hose is a gated Y. So if we have a long apartment lay, this is the line that we will be using. You might hear guys say, pull the leader line, pull the 2.5 with the gated Y, pull the trunk line. There's a variety of names that this line can go by, but it's a 2.5-inch hose, 250 feet in length with a gated Y on it. Directly below these two pre-connected lines, you will see is the other half of our high-rise pack. In this high-rise pack, we have 150 feet of 1 3/4 hose with, again, a smoothbore nozzle. So let's talk about a situation for a minute. If we need to pull this leader line into the center of, let's say, Good Shepherd, we can do that. Easily grabbing this high-rise pack, we can extend that line even farther. So we've got 250 feet of 2.5-inch hose. We've got 150 feet of 1 3/4. That's a lot of hose. We can cover a lot of distance. What's new to Endwell Fire is a long line. Typically on most of our hose beds, we have 200 feet of hose. This blue line, the second pre-connected line on this truck, is 300 feet in length. Now, one might ask, why would you do that? Versatility. Why have 3 pre-connected lines all of the same length? Why not give yourself that option? There are plenty of instances around our district where this 300-foot line is going to come in handy. Making an initial attack into Good Shepherd, perfect opportunity, 300-foot line. Down on Main Street, if you have a fire on the Charlie side or the rear of the building, this is a perfect line to pull. It's going to make sure that you can reach the seat of the fire and have an additional 50 feet of line. Now, all the hose on this truck is loaded in the Minuteman fashion. Very, very similar to all the other trucks that we have. You will notice it is just single stacked. So instead of having 2 lines, 100 feet each, side by side, it's stacked on top of each other. For the 300-foot line, you will need 2 firefighters to deploy. The first firefighter will grab the nozzle and the 100 feet of hose above it and put it on their shoulder. They will then step away 5 to 6 feet from the truck. The second firefighter will come to the next bite in the line. They will pull that bite and the 100 feet of hose on top of that, put it on their shoulder. As that firefighter walks away, it is imperative that they grab the last bite with their spare hand. This is the dump bite. Pulling this until it comes tight will ensure that we get all the hose out of this bed. Again, 2 firefighters, a 300-foot line. When you look at the 200-foot lines, that's a 1 firefighter operation. You'll also notice in the center of this hose bed is 1,100 feet of 4-inch hose. As I mentioned earlier, this hose is what we use to make the connection to the hydrant. For those of you who are vertically challenged like myself, we have added on just a piece of rope to that gate. You simply can pull that down, grab the gate, make your connection. Again, this line is not pre-connected. So we did sacrifice space on this truck. However, this is one of the areas where that sacrificed space has been beneficial. Looking at the ladders, these ladders are low. They're easy to grab. This is where we're going to save those seconds. Looking at our ladder complement, we decided to go with a 14-foot roof ladder and a 24-foot extension ladder. That extension ladder is a little bit smaller than what we typically carry, but again, it's lighter. It's a 1-person ladder. They can deploy it by themselves. You'll notice on these ladders, we have them marked. These are your balance points. So for 1 firefighter, all you have to do is you grab this ladder, throw that balance point on your shoulder, and you're ready to go. There's no standing there wondering, back and forth, where do I have to be on this ladder? You grab at that balance point, and you're off to the races. So again, these ladders are low. We sacrificed some compartment space, but it'll be well worth it. So the first compartment we're looking at on the officer side, the officer 1 compartment. This compartment is an MVA compartment with a couple extras thrown in. One of the most important things you will see that will get used the most is the officer's tool. Keeping in mind that the officer is always going to be part of the team, not just part of a team, but a functioning part of the team, the officer needs to have this tool. So that Halligan is placed right in the same side of the truck so the officer doesn't hunt for it as he's dealing with everything else that's going on in the incident. You'll see in that compartment, we have an MVA kit, we have road flares, our emergency scene ahead sign is there that needs to be deployed on any incident involving a major roadway. Also in that compartment is a small tool kit. If you go a step below into the bottom section, you'll see 4 pieces of cribbing. Those pieces of cribbing can be used for wheel chocks. You will see there are some salvage covers. Hidden underneath the salvage covers are 2 life jackets. Above the salvage covers, you're going to see our accountability board. This accountability board needs to get it set up in the front lawn of any reported structure fire. That is what we will tag in on as we go into the building. Second compartment on the officer's side, you will see across the bottom, we have 2 dry chem extinguishers. Sitting next to the dry chem extinguishers, you have a utility rope bag. This is not to be used for life safety. This is utility rope only. Right above it sits the chimney chains. You will also see that there is a red bag. That red bag is the second piece to your high-rise kit. And you need to take that for any type of high-rise fire. Behind the ladder, you'll see we have various pike poles. We have 3 6-foot pike poles, a 10-foot pike pole, and an attic ladder. When you put the attic ladder in, you need to make sure that you put the tips in first. If you don't, you're going to get it caught up in there and we will never get it out. So in the rear compartment, we keep our speedy dry. In addition to the speedy dry, we have 3 traffic cones, we have a chimney kit, and we have our hydrant bag. In addition to the hydrant bag, to the chimney kits, you also see there's a mounted box. This diamond plate box is mounted to the body, and that's where we keep all of our chainsaw accessories. Everything you need for that chainsaw is kept in that one location. We did decide with this truck to go with a side mount pump. Now the reason for that is space. It allowed us to shorten this truck up, which again added to that small turning radius. So let's talk about some key things that you will need to know for everyday operations. First thing you need to know is we have our intake valve right here. If you're that backstep firefighter and you hit the hydrant, that 4-inch LDH is going to be connected right here. In addition, you will see we have all of our valves for the hose bed pre-connects that come off the rear. They're going right in order. It's pretty simple to remember. Your 2.5-inch lines are on the outsides, 1 and 5. All of your 1 3/4 lines are right in the middle, 2, 3, and 4. In addition, we have them labeled. They're labeled both with a PSI for what your pump discharge pressure should be. And they are also labeled with the length and the nozzle tip that is on them. One small quirk about this truck is you will see, in order to hit 100 PSI at the nozzle for discharge number 4, you actually have to bump it up 10 PSI. There's an extra bend in the truck that adds that friction loss. So even though pre-connect 3 and 4 are identical in hose loads, you need to pump number 4 10 PSI higher. So the deck gun on this truck is actually telescoping. There's a 3-step process to pulling it up above the cab. Let's take a look at that right now. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to reach down with your left hand. There's a tab that's clearly marked with a number 1. You'll pull that tab out and pull it up. You'll hear it click into place. Now from this position, we can flow water. However, it's not necessarily ideal. Step number 2 will be to pull this top pin. As you pull that pin, you will take your left hand, you will put underneath, pull up. Again, it clicks into place. Now, in this position, we are able to then extend this gun down to ground level. So if you pull up and the front of the building is ripping and roaring, you can pull this gun up, extend it down, no problem. While flowing, we'll also have the option of rotating. Again, it's the 3-step process to get this in the correct position. Off the front of the truck, we have our bumper line. This line is 100 feet of 1 3/4 hose, outfitted with a fog nozzle. Now typically, what do we use this for? We use it for car fires, we use it for dumpster fires, anything where you don't need that 200 feet of hose. To deploy this line, you will notice that there are 2 bends. It pretty much makes a basket. Grab those 2, you pull it right out, set it on the ground. From there, you can deploy the hose very easily. Now don't forget, this line is extremely easy to extend past 100 feet. You have multiple options. Option number one, if you need just another 50 feet, grab that roll out of the engineer's compartment. Option number two, you want another 150 feet, grab the high-rise pack. This line does not have to be just a trash fire line. This line can be used for interior firefighting. So with this engine, remember it's important to pull past the building to allow the hose deployment. As you can see, this truck is going to allow us to succeed at the very core of firefighting, and that's putting water on the fire, early. With Engine 31.1, we're going to be able to flow water early, flow water often, flow water for the win. Keep training, Endwell.